Okay.
Okay, cool. Okay, guys, so welcome everyone. Welcome to another wonderful webinar. And I just want to give this general background about those webinars, and then Karen will introduce our guest today. So those webinars are organized by the Weekly Fasting Group, which is a big online community of individuals from virtually all over the world. And the common denominator of this group is that we fast, or at least try to fast, for at least 24 hours every week between Friday and Saturday, like week after week after week on a consistent basis. Other than that, it has no other agenda. So in order to be here, you do not need to comply to any kind of dietary lifestyle. Like we have raw vegans, we have meat eaters, doesn't matter. And we have people from different spiritual backgrounds, and it's actually a very, very peaceful community with lots of respect and lots of appreciation towards each member. So if those ideas appeal to you, and if you are watching this video later on, because it will be posted on YouTube, you will find my WhatsApp number. My name is Arik, and you're welcome to send me a message with your name, and I will happily add you if this idea of cultivating this habit of fasting appeals to you. So that was my brief introduction about the background. And now, Karen, over to you. Please introduce our guest today.
Yeah, lovely. Okay, so it is my great honor and privilege to be able to introduce Ray Maor to our group. And basically, he is the wonderful, amazing, inspirational Ray Maor. His breatharian journey started back in 2012 when he decided to go through the 21-day initiation process. Incidentally, he had been practicing weekly 24-hour fasting for 6 years before this initiation process. So that's interesting. Today, he practices the Pranic lifestyle by eating only occasionally. He also talks a lot about fasting and detoxing your body, and covers topics of self-mastery and happiness and expanding your consciousness for all who hear the calling to this lifestyle, both on his website and his YouTube channel. In 2013, he accepted the challenge to go on the TV show in Israel and stayed for 8 days without food or water to prove his body would not suffer any negative change, and that it is possible for a human to survive for 8 days without any solid food or water. It was a fun experiment in which he proved that breatharianism is not only possible, but that many health benefits could be associated with it. You can watch this documentary on his website and his YouTube channel. We will post the links below this video in the Weekly Fasting Group YouTube channel. Ray offers his own unique style of pranic living initiation that allows you to learn to use your body and mind to explore what it means to be a human in a completely new way without being addicted to anything, including food. There are no rules about being breatharian, only guidelines. As your guide into this lifestyle, Ray will point out the stepping stones you may encounter along the way and help you prepare for challenges that are a normal part of the initiation process. He teaches in a way that allows individuals to explore their inner mastery and open up their chi energy flow. The process comprises of a deep cleansing of your body and mind, but also practical knowledge on how to stay in the state of higher vibration. If you feel excited hearing these words or watching Ray's videos, that is your heart saying that you are ready. Ray will be sharing how he has transformed his own life and the life of thousands of his own students through his own unique breatharian initiation process and lifestyle. He has been living this way for over 10 years. He has faced and overcome all challenges and hurdles along the way. So if this is something that you feel called to and have questions on how to transition easily and stay with the lifestyle effortlessly, this is the person who can help us all. So with that, I'd like to introduce Ray. Ray, are you there, Ray?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, cool. Welcome. It was kind of a long introductory.
It was a very long introduction. Thank you. Wow.
But I wanted everybody, you know, you've got I can't tell you this week how many people have, you know, commented about how excited they are about you and attending the group. I've hosted quite a few speakers now, and I've never had the interest that I've had this week with you. And there must be over 30 questions that people have emailed me. Some of these people will possibly be live to ask you themselves, but and as we move through the questions, we'll obviously stop me when when you get to the point where you know, if we're taking too long for you. But
Sure.
I'll start with the question, shall I? Unless you'd like to say something.
No, go ahead. I think that with the questions we'll see where it flows to.
Yeah, I shared your videos on the Q&A section, so that hopefully we're not going to be duplicating on questions that you've already answered. That at least that's the plan, that we use your time wisely. So the first question is that you mentioned, for me, these are mine to start with. I'll be very selfish. So the first question is that you mentioned that someone actually died, or the only person that has died has been because they drank orange juice immediately after an initiation.
Well, first, I have to tell you that it's not in my retreat, but it was one of the things that we heard of when we did the 21-day retreats back in the day before the age of the group retreats. Okay, and cool. Then what we were told is that the person just after the 7-day dry fast immediately drank more than a liter of orange juice. And the acidity of the orange juice immediately changed the balance in the blood and then in the body. And yeah, that was like one of the people that died in the retreats. There's a few there's a few individuals in the entire history of the retreats, and they just didn't follow the guidelines. The guidelines are very, very clear of how you exit dry fast safely.
Yeah, so it's interesting that this comes up, because I've actually got a friend that's done at least 7-day dry fast and broken it with watermelon and citrus juices. But it's been pure, it's been fruits, it's been proper fresh fruit juices. But I've also known somebody who did the master fast system, which I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Oh, I'm familiar with it. Yes, I tried it for a couple of weeks as well.
Yeah, me too. And now I had a friend who did that for the full, when they first started doing it, it was 108 days that they did. And they broke that fast and went to a restaurant and had like a bottled orange juice. So it wasn't a natural product. It was and she collapsed. And this was a week or so after breaking the master fast sensibly. And she thought orange juice in this restaurant was a good choice, but she collapsed and ended up in hospital. So there you go. So I just wondered if that experience was like a processed orange juice versus a natural orange juice. That was really what
I can tell you that I've had a few participants that, when you disengage from your body, like your physical body, and you go up in higher vibration, and some people kind of like forget between the darkness and the light, and they get a little bit confused, and they think that they're capable of doing quite a lot of things, like because they've did the mind over matter of the breatharian thing, and then they think that they can go and have a steak or have a hamburger or have something like really, really heavy for the body. And I've had a few participants that went in that way, and it ended up in the hospital. Yeah, and they didn't die, but it ended up in the hospital. It's one day of water and then one day of diluted juices, and then it's really gradual, and it really depends how well practiced you already are and how pure your intentions are. So it's a mind, body, spirit combination.
Yeah, and see, again, this is something else. I've been reading your book this week and obviously watching as many videos so that I'm with you. And you do talk about that at some point, at least in your book, that at least I think it was your book, is that when you recommend the liquid fast or the liquid diet after your initiation process, so you recommend a 2-month process.
That's right.
to allow, that's to change habits, I'm
That's
guessing.
right. It's beyond the habit. Think about your habit like a metal spring. Okay, any new habit, you know, most people think about a diet, they think about sport. You guys are already doing it this 1 week, 1 day a week. It's a habit. Now, if you went 2-3 months, at least 21 repeats, you kind of get used to it, and then you're so used to it that going without it doesn't make sense anymore. For us, in the early days, it was supposed to be 6 full months. But what we see with the energy of the group is that the transformation becomes easier and faster with time. So we only limited the guidelines to about 2 months. But the muscle of eating is connected to sort of like a primitive instinct that we have. If you chew one thing, you immediately want to chew another thing, you know, and the first bite is the only thing that really tastes good. Afterwards, it's a completely automatic response of the body. So that's why at least 3 months. And I always tell them, you know, at least 2 months, please. I did a full year, and it will be easier for you. The first 2 months are the most challenging socially and with your ego and your mind games, and your body is going through the transition, so you're losing some weight. So that's why it's at least 2 months, minimum.
And I totally agree. And my experience, like, again, interesting in your book, you talk about it, but my personal experience is that, again, you give it a certain amount of time. Like, I went through a phase, and again, I hate to say this, but I was fruitarian for so long, and then I decided to do intermittent, but allow myself a bit more flexibility, which we'll talk about that more. And I actually found myself allowing myself, for having stopped it for many years, eating chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't feel good. It didn't feel good at all, but I ate it, and I really, you know, I then, having gone back to eating chocolate, I was addicted to chocolate. And then I decided, right, I'm not going to eat chocolate. But it took me 3 or 4 weeks of not buying into the addiction of buying chocolate. So I totally understand what you say about you have to just be strict.
For a while.
Yeah,
It's really about your intention. You see, like, once you become a vegetarian, then you don't doubt being a vegetarian. You go into the supermarket and you don't buy meat and fish and stuff like that. It just makes sense to you. So when you decide to intend to become a breatharian, you just don't look at food anymore in the same way. You drink something, and after a couple of weeks, you're allowed to even have something a little bit more thick, like a smoothie. But after those 2 months, you're very, very free to eat whatever it is that you want. But if you're going to start eating every day, you will see that your body is going to miss it. And then your mind games, you know, your belief system is going to change, and you're going to have doubt and fears. And then you'll slowly and gradually go back to your bad, you know, eating habit, let's call it, you know?
Yeah. Totally agree. So something just to clarify, if you will, is that you did talk about, during that period where you are transitioning, that you were not strict with, you would just go and buy any juice.
That's
so
right.
You didn't worry if it had sugar.
Anything, you know, it's really about your belief about something, right? We know the placebo effect works with medicine, and we understand how powerful the mind can really be. And I've played around with it quite a lot. So when I teach, what I tell them is that if you believe that you have to have these like amazing oranges that are organic, and Jesus himself went down from the sky and touched them, and the farmer is a happy person that loves his wife, and do that. And if you feel like it's okay for you to drink something from the supermarket that's not necessarily the best, you know, you can do that too. But just understand, there is a frequency inside whatever it is that you drink, that your belief system and whatever it is that you emanate in vibration in that belief and intention goes into that thing that you drink. So if you're going to drink something, be happy about it. It doesn't matter what it is, just be happy about it, and feel free to drink coffee, wine, whatever it is that, you know, that you want freedom eventually.
And I completely agree with you, because again, I don't know who it was. I'm pretty certain Wim Hof at some point did a documentary where some of his followers did a test, where they drank poison or something like that, and none of them were affected. So it's true. It's belief, and And yeah, so cool. So that's clear. Okay, so I'm just going to look more on the questions. Okay, so what is the best technique for working through emotions?
That's a good one. Well, first you have to make sure that your body is already clean of negative emotions that were stuck there. And this is one of the reasons that we do a proper initiation. Like the dry fast actually takes out all the water. And then when you drink the new water with the blessings of everyone in a water ceremony, it kind of like fills the void. So the first thing is to get there. And that's why we have, that's why usually when you had these old ancient rituals and retreats for breatharians, then the person had to move away from society for a long enough time. And what we do is we take away their cell phone and we kind of like allow times of vipassana between workshops so the person can go and dive within. Then next is about balancing your emotional body. And that means, how serious do I take this life, knowing that this is just an avatar and a temporary thing, and really sinking that into the belief system that so what? I mean, so what? However, if you're a person that's very overly dramatic, you will have these ups and downs. And once you have these ups and downs, you become unbalanced, then maybe you will want to emotionally eat. And emotionally eating is not a bad thing if you are aware of that. Meaning sometimes you allow it and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you tell yourself, you know something, it's not that I'm hungry, it's that I'm going to that cupboard or the refrigerator out of habit. So maybe it's good to just talk with someone or take a walk or exercise or do 1,001 things that more aware people, aware of their habits, aware of their emotions, aware of their thoughts or thought patterns do instead of that. So I wouldn't say like, I would say that people that are overly dramatic in their life and very, very overly sensitive, I'm talking not in control of their emotional state, will have a more difficult time controlling any habit, including being a breatharian. And you will find that like people here, if you guys are doing 1 day a week, that's amazing. Most people that I know try it and then they kind of like, they can't persist, like going to the gym or any other type of habit that we want to build or cultivate. So it's really about how much you understand that you are not the emotion, you are the observer of the emotion. And then when you recognize it and you allow it to be, you allow it, you don't suppress it, it dissipates by itself. The more you practice that approach, that more of like a mental observer approach, then the emotion kind of dissipates by itself. And you're like, wait a second, I don't have to carry this drama. There is a method that I know a mentor uses. He says, you have to talk about it immediately. Like as it's going, you have to talk about it with your spouse, with whoever is around you, just, get it out of your body. And then it dissipates by itself, by looking at it, admitting it, assuming responsibility for it, because, you ask to feel that thing. It's not somebody else that did it for you. It's you that did it to yourself.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that, because I remember as a youngster, I used to have this real jealous, like if my boyfriend was doing anything independent, I had this real, where it came from, I have no idea, but I did have this real jealous. And like I say, it was once I actually acknowledged that and acknowledged that I didn't want to feel that way, and I even went and saw a hypnotherapist and about it. I'm not convinced that the hypnotherapist actually did anything, but it was definitely 100% in recognizing that was an issue that and that I didn't want it. And then, like you say, within a short period of time, it no longer came to the surface.
Right. That's right. That's the way it works. By the way, the second guide in the processes is a lady from the UK now living in Spain, and her specialty is exactly that: the emotional body and how we can actually remove the traumas from the body, because that kind of goes hand in hand with becoming a breatharian and finding the balance in the physical body, in the emotional body, in the spiritual body, and in the mental body. So they kind of come together like the 4 chambers of the heart.
Yeah, and again, it brings up another issue for me, is that my dad, I had a weird upbringing. My dad was really, really strict, and it made me really scared of people that have that authority. So like when I'm in a boss work position, my boss, I would always act really weird around, and you're like, it was like, and it was more about the authority issue that I'd obviously developed as a child. And now I now feel that feeling. I can feel that, the fear that I feel with people that are in authority. And at times that's even my partner, believe it or not. And I feel that feeling. I feel that feeling. And I'm not saying it's totally gone yet, but it's something that I'm becoming more and more aware that then drives me to go to the fridge, or, or find some excuse that you deserve, that's, you've had a horrible experience.
But becoming aware of it is already halfway to the solution. So you're already very, very in a good place on that journey,
Slowly but surely, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so so we've touched on the fact that you talk about that our bodies are a huge percentage of water, and that water stores our emotions and trauma, and that dry fasting is a big way of releasing
That's right.
those emotions. Yeah,
that's
okay.
right. You
Cool.
guys dry fast, or you guys like water fast in your it's a dry, so I assume some of you play around with it, so you probably notice that in a dry fast, in the afternoon, you don't understand why the hell you even want to go back to eat or drink. You're like the ketosis kicks in, and you're very well aware and in your center, and you're suddenly feeling the presence, and you don't have these negative emotions that usually come up when you're thinking about, oh, what, I've had a bad day, or I've had an argument, or you see the world through the negative judgmental eyes of the media and stuff like that. So all of these things happen just from half a day of dry fasting. Imagine what happens after 2-3 days, or when you really get used to it and just live your life in this type of lifestyle of always being dry fasting or water fasting. It's quite interesting. I remember myself before becoming a breatharian, and I had a much bigger ego. I was less aware. I came to it from a scientific perspective. I wanted to understand why the hell a guy that I was volunteering with told me that he doesn't eat, and how he's capable of doing that. And what I found is that I'm much more connected to my, you can say, feminine side, more patient, more loving. I'm not perfect. There's a lot of things that I'm always working on, yeah. But these are the things that kind of like surprised me, because I thought it was more like a physical experience, and then I found that it's way beyond that. I became much more, I don't know, intuitive, I would say. Like I can give a 2-hour lecture on a subject and not really think about my notes or think about anything at all, or it's kind of like come together,
Yeah, definitely. And what I've noticed is that while you're actually in the dry fast, for example, your body is transforming, so it's dealing with it physically. But after you finish and you break that dry fast, oh my God, do the emotions then? So it's almost like the emotions go temporarily on, or it can, from my experience, is it's like the physical, you go through the physical experience, the weakness, whatever detox, your body goes through. But then you break that fast, and then the emotions will be the next. It's almost like that's the next stage. But whether or not that's actually how it goes, or whether it's just, but it's almost like you've got to be ready for another 2 or 3 days after you break that fast, because otherwise that's a really vulnerable time where you can then go, and the cravings and whatever, and you just defeat everything you've done with your dry fast. Have you experienced that?
Not that much.
Okay, not so much.
There's a question here. What do you recommend as the easiest way to elevate our frequency when we are having a negative emotion that drives to emotional eating? So I have my own way, which is walking. I just take a very long walk. And during that walk, what I see is that as the body gets tired after 30 or 40 minutes, then my mind isn't as emotional as it was before. And I kind of like take a look at it from a broader perspective. But everybody has their own thing. Some people just meditate. But sometimes it's really hard when we are emotional to meditate because our mind, you know, the monkey mind keeps us busy as much as we can. But recognizing the pattern of the emotional eating, or even allow yourself to eat, but not to binge, you know, to eat like something small or something that you're happy with and you're content with, and you understand that this is it and that's it, and I'm going to enjoy it. So I close my eyes and I drink it, or I eat it very, very slowly. You know, just be with it. The more you allow yourself, and you're not feeling that something is, you're depriving yourself of something, then your inner rebel is not going to argue with you that much. In other words, you allow the inner rebel, you're just not going all the way with him, which means like you're not like binging tonight a whole bucket of whatever. Like they say that it's never one cookie, right? You take one cookie and then a person wants another cookie because he broke that limitation that he put upon himself, and the inner rebel is like in celebration. So, and again, everyone is very individual. I believe that the more work you do on yourself, the more you discover those things that allow you to break that pattern. But from my experience and what I see, the more you work on yourself, you become more self-aware, and then there's less things that control you, because you kind of like become the master of everything. And then because you're constantly breaking the place of balance, not the place of balance, the comfort zone, because you understand that when you're breaking that comfort zone, that's the place that you're actually experiencing and growing, then you never allow your life to really be idle anymore. Or you're always testing yourself. You're saying, wait a second, why did I want to eat that? Or why was I affected emotionally from my, I don't know, boss yelling at me, or from my kid not understanding me, or whatever. And then you do the self-work, which is usually the alpha state work, means self-forgiveness. You understand that you've attracted this. Your soul level responsibility is that you attracted everything into your life in order to learn something from it. And as long as you're not learning, it will always repeat, and sometimes even stronger. And then you'll get sick. And then but eventually when you listen to your intuition, you will understand that there's a deeper lesson here. And that emotional eating, or the drama that has arrived in your life, is just a symptom, and you need to follow it into the root. And the root is waiting. Your higher guidance is there. You just need to connect to your intuition, ask a question, and don't allow your ego to give an answer. Ask the question and let it sink in and echo in your subconscious mind until an answer will arrive by itself without you meddling with it. And usually that answer is the right answer, and that's the answer of your higher guidance. And this is what I get when I take a walk, like a very 30-40 minute walk or deep meditation. So it's getting to that place to find those answers.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree. And that's why I like the fact that you have these rules. You know, the rules, there are some rules that are just, you know, no question about it. They're the rules during that transition period.
That's right.
And then there are, and I like the fact that there's also rules that, you know, you're okay. There is an element of flexibility in there. So, you know,
yes.
so that, yeah. And I just, yeah.
I'll tell you why we allow a little bit of flexibility, because once a person breaks a rule, have you ever come back to an ex-relationship just because you had sex with them one time? Have you ever smoked a cigarette and went back to the habit? So when a person breaks one rule, immediately he feels like he's judging himself and feels guilty. And that guilt drives him back to emotional eating. So what we do is we allow that flexibility. Yes, there are guidelines that I say, guys, 2 months, that's the mandatory, at least once a week, a dry fast of 24 hours like you guys do. There's a lot of things that reset us back into that high vibration. But if I deprive them from having that flexibility, or from having, you know, an occasional snack with their kid in the evening, you know, then they will go into emotional eating patterns. So it's better to just allow and be more flexible.
Yeah, again, and I've personally experienced that. There was a stage I went through where it was fruitarian, nothing but fruitarian, you know, and it was so strict. And then, like you say, I ended up changing that, where I was more flexible and open to feel my way through what I would eat. And if I fancied something like chocolate, I would allow myself, but I would watch how closely and feel closely how it felt, to the point where I felt like I took a step backwards, but I didn't. I actually took a step forwards, because that beating myself up has gone. That, you know, that beating yourself up for the naughty girl that didn't stay with the fruitarian lifestyle. Instead, so it actually is completely transformed by letting myself off the hook. There's still plenty of rules, like every week, the weekly fasting, but overall, I've definitely jumped a huge hurdle by, you know, being a bit flexible on those rules. So, okay, so just a little bit backwards. So your initiation process, you talk about day 3, there being the surgeon's table.
That's right.
And then
this is originally from the 21-day process, where Jasmuheen wrote the book and the guidelines, which were just a couple of pages. And what we see is that at least half of the participants, after the 72-hour dry fast, with the right intention and all the work that we're doing there, kind of like something shifts. And she explains it like the soul leaves the body and then the soul comes back to the body. I don't know exactly what happens there on a metaphysical level, but we understand that something is shifting there. What we think it is that the consciousness finally understands that the person is not going to give them water or food, and they have to force the pranic engine to start working by slowly opening, you know, the crown chakra and allowing more energy to run through the body. So that's what we see that usually happens. Those people that in the group workshops that we teach, it's a 9-day process, but 4 days of them are dry fasting. But those that want to go further, we don't stop them. So some people do 5, some people do 6, and we see that the people that do 4, 5, and 6, they have an easier time after the 3rd day. Like the first 2, 3 days are usually harder for the person while they're getting used to that, you know, vibration, energy, or however you want to call it. I'm not saying it's easy, you know, because it is the first time that most people do an extended dry fast. So for some, it's easier than others. But after 3 days, it kind of like gets balanced and stays the same.
Okay. And then days 4 to 7, you talk about there being the breatharian transformation process, and you basically you stay the same. And again, it goes back to the 21 day. Obviously, I've been reading your book, but it's interesting that you stay in the same position.
No, that's the intervals. What you read in my book is a part of my diary. And in the 21 days, they asked us to stay at least 6 hours a day without moving too much. In the group processes, you don't have this anymore. There's no need for that anymore.
Okay, cool, fab. And the reason that what's the reason that they did do it, and now that
I'll tell you what I think happened. I think that in the beginning it was just a few individuals. I want you guys to understand, breatharianism is not the future of humanity. It is a group of souls that are exploring a very narrow narrative of exploration. A lot of times it's people that are incarnated, like, I don't know how much you know about the history of the planet, but right now the planet is shifting, and there's a lot of souls that come from different dynasties and different areas in the universe that kind of like feel like things here are not really aligned, but they know that there's a home, that they don't understand where that home is. So we call them the volunteers. And the volunteers started coming after World War II, when we thought that things are kind of like going to end. So these souls, they're very used to not being on a material base. In other words, you kind of miss being full of energy and just with energy, and everything with food kind of like puts you down and heavy and makes you very, very heavy. So like me, like I used food as fuel, and now I use food because it tastes good and stuff like that. So you understand, when we're coming from that type of dynasty, it makes sense to us that people don't necessarily need as much food as they think that they do. Especially today, people get fat after 30, they lose their hair, and all of it has to do with food. You know, it's an industry that makes quite a lot of money. Even doctors, they're not taught preventive medicine and how to properly nourish your body. And the sizes of everything become bigger and bigger, and everything is flooded with sugar and bad stuff. And the consciousness doesn't really help in that, because the people, they want that comfort. They're just looking for a lot of comfort, and less and more and less about minimalism. People don't understand that Minimalism is the way to live. Every person that wants to persist and discipline themselves, they choose a practice and then they go deeper with that practice. Something even as simple as going between loving multiple people and getting married. That's a limitation that we put in order to dive deeper with a single soul. So the same thing happens here. A human soul enters the human body in order to be a specific sex in a specific time in a specific country and explore a very, very narrow narrative. And that's what the exploration of breatharianism really is. You understand? So it's not suitable for everyone. It's suitable for those people that hear an inner calling to come, and then they find that workshop, they find the guide, they find the book, they find the way, and then they say, I can't help but going there. Like what I kind of like had. I heard about it, and then I did an ayahuasca ceremony, and then she showed me, you gotta do it, you gotta do it, you gotta do it. Doesn't matter if you become a breatharian or not. In the end, you gotta do it. You gotta go through the process. You're gonna learn quite a lot. It's gonna change your life in some way.
Yeah, for sure. And for me, I'm the same. I loved my food. It was like, I love my food. Why does it suddenly not feel good to eat? You know? So I definitely didn't choose to be on this path. It's like you're going there and you haven't got any choice. But I equally I experienced the, you know, this doesn't feel right. That whole, yeah, I feel like an alien on this planet. Yeah, my experience of that.
I know exactly how you feel.
So I have another question about exercise and fasting, or exercise and this pranic lifestyle, because again, in your book, you talk about a certain part of it where you're not moving around and you're not, you know, and you're not recommending exercise. And then there's people like Dr. Filanov. I don't know if you've had anything to do with Dr. Filanov, but he's a Russian specialist in dry fasting. And he really, you know, everybody must do a minimum of 10 kilometers a day walking as minimum, and a lot of self-massage. So he promotes a lot of movement. So I just wondered what your thoughts were, or your experience with
I
your
don't think the person that dry fasts needs to move that much. I do believe that they need to move and not become a couch potato, but we don't encourage spending too much energy, because we want that energy to go within, because there's a lot more resolution that you need to do with yourself while you're doing an initiation than it is about, you know, using the physical body. And 10 days, you said 10 kilometers. I assume that he's not doing 10 days with normal people. Like a 10-day dry fast with somebody that's mainstream will be extremely difficult and even dangerous.
Interesting. Yeah, again, I'm pretty certain they have a process before.
Yeah, like minimizing, like we do a raw food week before, and then people do like an occasional wet water fast before, like to detox the body, to get it ready for the process.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so
somebody asked here a couple of questions. So the purpose of life, I like that. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the spiral dynamics series. If you're not familiar with spiral dynamics, it's a modality of breaking down people's conscious awareness and level, you can say, in life. And I have a few videos about them in my YouTube channel. And you can say that the purpose of life changes. When you are in the materialistic phase, then the purpose of life is to gain and to have much more. And when you move into the green, then you become more environmental and unity, and the purpose of life becomes saving and moving towards the light. And when you become a yellow, like me, which is non-dualistic, the purpose of life is whatever it is that you choose the purpose of life to be. And then you understand that religions just chose that their purpose of life is to go towards the divine and eventually reach heaven. And the purpose of life of a young mother is to protect her children with every possible vibe of her being, you know. But when you choose that, and you understand that, for me, for example, the purpose of my life is to be excited about whatever it is that I'm doing. It doesn't mean that I'm not striving to go anywhere. I'm trying to be as present as I can in this body, in this time, because I understand that striving means that my mind is in the future and is not in the present, for example. So it's really about what you choose and believe that's the purpose of life. And you will notice that the purpose of life will eventually change over time, like your belief system has changed. The person that you were 5 years ago would not believe the habits, the people, the friends that you have today. And the person you're going to be 5 years from now is not going to believe the person that you are today and how much he has changed and altered and whatever, you know, and you always think that you are at your best and in your ideal and you're not going to change. No, we are about change as much as you can. Another question here was you mentioned Bashar teachings in one of your YouTube videos. I can tell you that Bashar has helped me create my process. There's a few channelers of Bashar in the world. The person that you see in the United States is called Daryl Anka. And I believe in channelings. I believe in entities, in aliens, and through the channel, we can ask a lot of questions. Of course, I doubt everything that I hear to make sure that it resonates with me. And when I heard a calling to do these initiations in the beginning, I really didn't want to, because I don't know, I thought I was kind of like an introverted individual or a person that really likes to learn by themselves, but not necessarily share. But then I kind of like saw that my guidance is pushing me in that direction all the time, like put me on stage and have me write a book and create a website. And then people contact me and say, teach me. And I didn't want to in the beginning, but then I said like, sure, this is fun. Why not? We're going to change lives. And Bashar, I contacted the Bashar channeler in Israel, and I asked him to help me because I didn't know exactly what I need to do. And during the first session, he kind of like answered a lot of things like the job of the pineal gland in the initiation and the balancing of the four bodies and how important it is, and what type of meditations I should teach and what type of workshops I should teach. And it was quite interesting because what we saw together is that in the book of my life, I have learned quite a lot of things, and I just needed to put a lot of them together. It's sort of like the universe kind of like prepared the process for me. And ever since then, it was like 10 years ago, 90% of the schedule has not really changed. Okay, the alternating between Vipassana and inner silence and workshops and society, doing it in a place that is in nature or in harmony, and the type of people that come there, like it all kind of like came together. And I really believe in Bashar, as you've probably noticed. If we're talking about the body that's the strongest with me, it's the mental body, it's the belief system, it's overcoming those beliefs. And a lot of people that follow me, like Bashar, his teachings are mental beliefs and how we overcome them, how we use the mind. So it's not that I'm not heart-oriented, but the first thing that comes is through my mind and through an understanding. And only then I am full of empathy and sympathy and stuff like that. So Bashar is definitely one of the entities that really helped me put this together.
And can I ask, so you said that the 21-day process was only having like a 10% long-term success rate. So how has that changed? What is it? What sort of
percentage? It depends on what you judge as success. Because for me, success is having a deeper change in our relationship with food. If it's to create level 3s, I would say that it's 40-50% will create level 3 breatharians that can easily go back into that habit. But the rest of the people have a deeper change with food, and that's what I want. I want that detachment, and I don't want that, you know, now when people, after the experiment that they saw me on TV, and people stop me in the street and they tell me, you know something, Ray, Yom Kippur, which is the Jewish holiday that everybody fasts for 24 hours, and everybody's like, oh, it's difficult and it's hard. And they said, we saw you 8 consecutive days. And ever since then, Yom Kippur is the easiest thing in the world. And it made me really doubt if I'm really hungry or not really hungry. And what is hunger anyway, if I have all this energy inside of my body? And really, that's really what I wanted. I wanted to reach the mainstream and the regular people, to have them doubt whatever it is that their belief system has been cooked with over the years.
Cool. And then you talk about what to do when you feel weakness during dry fasting and during fasting.
Well, the first thing you should understand is the breath. We're called breatharians for a reason. And you, for example, Karen, what I see is that you don't really deep breathe, like you don't breathe deeply as you can, because your sentences are you're very quick to talk, and then your mind, and then you think about the next thing. You're not really here. If you take 2 big breaths, I guarantee you're gonna feel very different. Now, if you get hungry, you do the same thing with 3 breaths. There's a meditation on my YouTube channel called the Lake Meditation. It's open. It's a visualization guided pranic breathing technique. As you are entering a lake, you really feel that you become a conduit of the energy, and you're moving the energy from above to through your body, and some of it becomes left inside. So once you start deep breaths, we call these conscious breaths, full breaths, you see that you have much more energy, right? Like logically speaking, without food, we're supposed to die after a couple of weeks, without water, 3 or 4 days, and without breath, a few minutes. So the engine of the body is the oxygen that it gets. And when we learn how to breathe deeply, and we do it all the time until it becomes a part of us, and that fuels our engine much more than the food that we eat. Yeah.
Yeah,
you're not hurt that I said that, right? It's just an observation.
No, trust me, I want to learn from you. But yeah, and I'm happy that you point things out like that. So yeah, no. Another reason we all want you for an initiation, please, Ray.
Well, I had a few initiations in the UK, but I found that because I'm doing like now once a year in Europe and once a year in the United States, if you guys have more than 15, 20 people, I'll be happy to come. But I found that a lot of people from Europe just don't want to travel to the UK. And the common ground for most people from Europe is Spain. They don't want to travel to, I don't know, maybe they don't like you guys. Maybe it's the weather. I don't really understand how people relate to one another in Europe.
That's totally fine. So there are, again, I'm now on to other people's questions. You've definitely covered mine, most of them. So what have been some of the biggest challenges on this Pranic journey? This is Elise. She's from Holland. And what have been some of the biggest challenges on this Pranic journey, and how did you overcome them?
On my path? In my path, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, for each breatharian, the two biggest challenges are usually the mind games and the society. So society, especially in the first few months, as you are losing weight and as you're changing, people around you, especially moms and grandmas and people that really love you, and they think that you went fucking crazy, and they think that you're trying to kill yourself. And for them, especially as a Jewish person, Holocaust survivor, they think that if you deprive yourself of food and you do it consciously, then something's wrong with you. So it's about society. Suddenly some friends, they don't want to invite you to go into a restaurant because all you do is you drink juice with them, and it doesn't make them feel good. I was a bachelor, so I was dating, and the women I dated didn't want to go out with me because I wouldn't eat with them. So there's a lot of these type of struggles that come, especially with society. When you do go back to eating occasionally, then what you do is that you schedule your social events in the times that you choose to eat. So it gets a little bit easier. And the second is the mind games. Why the hell did I do it? Why do I have to be this extreme? What am I trying to prove to myself? Why do I have to let go of anything in this life in order to learn something else? So the monkey mind keeps bothering you, especially in the first couple of months when you also don't feel that strong because your body is still kind of like changing. So when you have these two things and they're constantly bothering you, every day, then eventually that's the challenge. That becomes the challenge. Everything else becomes kind of normal. You just forget to eat, you sleep less, you don't have breakfast and lunch, you don't have, you don't really have a lot of times in the toilet. Like those things, you kind of like get used to them after a couple of months, but these are the challenges. And from my experience, those people that have done more than a few months and stay, those are the ones that get the benefit, that really get the benefit, and they find their balance. And you should know that breatharian level 3s, there's all types. Like I eat like twice a week. I know somebody that doesn't eat at all, but she drinks a broth. And I know somebody that snacks something small in the evening, not in a way that makes sense scientifically, of course, but like everyone finds their own kind of like enjoyable moment with themselves to still enjoy the world of flavor. And let me make something very, very clear to you. Level 4s are very, very uncommon. Level 4s are people that don't eat and don't drink, like Prajani, and like there's another guy there's a few people, okay? These people always live in a place that has a lot of humidity. That's because their pores, it's not that they don't drink, it's that their skin kind of learns to open up the pores and kind of like soak in that humidity. These people are not really connected to the Western life. In other words, there's not a lot of stress. There's not a lot of ups and downs and emotional drama and stuff like that, because if you did have that emotional drama, then it will be very extremely difficult for you. And they go through a different type of experience, and they have a very strong inner calling. All of them have a very strong, like Johnny said, that he had a vision, an epiphany with an angel that told him that he has to stop eating and drinking. Everyone has like a story, but that's not the common breatharian. The common breatharian that we strive for is a Western breatharian that knows how to balance his life with his job and with some mild stress in his life, and just does the work of awareness. Like I'm a computer engineer, you know, I'm a very normal, very settled, very grounded individual. I do art, you know, I do like, I feel like I'm very, very normal to some, but to others, they consider me to be an extremist of some sort, for example.
And that changed, didn't it? I read somewhere or heard somewhere that when you had, you're now married, I don't know whether you're married, but you've got children, and that changed your lifestyle.
It did. Actually, I was much more extreme before as a breatharian, and now, like my younger, I have two children, and both of them are on the autistical. They're both autistic, and that challenges emotionally in the house as well. And COVID was very terrible for being a breatharian, because you're so bored and you're frustrated, and businesses collapse, and there's no money, and people around you, everybody's scared. So everybody does that, you know, the like ups and downs. So during the COVID time and with my kids, now I eat more than ever, and which is a couple of times a week, for example. And it's different. It's very different. Now, for example, I did the dry fast of 3 days just 3 weeks ago. I used to practice at least 2 days every week back in the day. So I got married and I had kids, and now I'm becoming a little bit more normal, I think.
But like I think I read as well, but that's a part of the journey, isn't it? There's, you know,
it is. You test your limits, and I can tell you that I think that as a guide, I have to try everything. Like, I want to understand everything that the people that I'm going to teach are going through. And this is why I had to be extreme for at least the first year. I had to touch the almost level 4 style in order to go back and say, you know something, Ray? That wasn't you. That was your spiritual ego that wanted to be known as one of those very unique individuals. But you need to go back and bridge the gap between materialism and spirituality, between the West and the East, sort of, and make people understand that it's feasible to be done within their own life, and not something that's like you don't have to go and meditate in the Himalaya mountains for a whole year to reach that type of understanding and level.
Yeah, cool. So I've got, in one of your videos, Pranic Living makes the body cleaner and at the same time less reactive to cold and hot. Do we not get more sensitive to sensations and energy when living on prana? So
okay, so this differs. For example, some people are like me, are very, very everything that, if I drink alcohol like beer, very, very sensitive. But on the other hand, I've seen people that do the initiation, and now they can drink as much as they want, like they're not affected at all. So the gift's kind of like open to different people. I think that you become more of what you are. I think that it's like the connection between you and your higher self kind of like slowly dissipates, you can say. And then if I was like a very gifted guitar player, now I'm even more. And if I'm very gifted in putting things together and ideas and speaking them out, then now I'm even more. So that's what actually happens. So one of the gifts that I got is that I'm not as sensitive to cold and heat. Other people get, you know, sleeping 3 or 4 hours a night, and other people get becoming more intuitive and feeling, you know, their environment. So it's really different.
yeah, cool. How long does the physical transition to pranic living take on average after the 10-day initiation process, or is it immediate?
It is almost immediate, but the body has to do the transition that the consciousness has made. So usually the consciousness makes the transition, the belief system is set, and now it takes the body the time to acclimate to the changes, which can take a few months.
Okay, we've kind of covered that, haven't we?
Yeah, and I've had people that were in very good shape, and they went running after a week. Like, I'm talking about half a marathon running. And I've had a Kung Fu teacher that went back to teaching. and people that worked like physically that just went back to their regular job. So you have these cases as well. It's usually the younger you are and the more health you are and the more you believe that it has happened, it has changed, and that's it, and you don't doubt it that much. Somebody here asked if you can do it when you're over 70. I've had a German woman when she was 83 years old do it with me in Ecuador. We were like 40 participants in that group. And I can tell you that she was one of the most happiest and in tune person. And she was one of these people that did the 5-day dry fast and made fun of all the young people that only did the 3.5-day dry fast, for example. So
Wow.
I've had couples that did it in the 70s. I'm quite amazed when people that want to do this transition at that age. But you know, I'm very open-minded to it.
Okay, so I'll just ask MWH from Norway, are you here to ask your questions? I'm going to assume not. So one of their questions is, how and when did you discover the science behind fasting?
Mm-hmm.
So that was yeah, because you were 6 years before you did your
That's
initiation.
right.
Yeah, so okay, so share that with us.
Don't make fun of me, but I was in a group called the Raelian group, the French Raelian group. And over there, they're like combining aliens with technology and spirituality. And one of the things that they say that's good for the body is to fast once a week. And I started fasting and I started feeling awesome with it. And I started seeing that I don't know, even it's like I'm aging less. I have more energy. I have more clarity of mind. And then I went into research, like read the books and watched. It was just the beginning of YouTube, like the internet and stuff. And I found all these things. I found that doctors that don't believe in it, and then doctors that research it and that do believe in it. And then I see cancer, like people that are healing themselves from cancer and different things only with an extended water fast. So I understood that there's something here.
Yeah, definitely. And how old were you back then?
I was maybe 24,
Wow.
something like that.
Cool. So what do you eat when you do eat?
I'm a vegetarian.
Sorry?
I'm a vegetarian, so I just eat vegetarian food.
Okay, so you're fine with dairy and that type of thing. It's just
I don't encourage it. I don't have like cow's milk at home or anything like that, but I'm down with pizza or toast or anything with yellow cheese, the regular yellow cheese, definitely. That's the only reason, like ice cream and pizza is the only reason why I'm not a vegan.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. And what liquids do you drink these days?
Water, tea, coffee. I don't really consume that much alcohol. We don't have an alcohol culture in Israel. So those are my basics. I drink juice when I feel like making it myself usually. I don't like to drink that much outside of home.
Okay, and do you ever supplement?
I took omega-3. I had like this dandruff issue in my skull. And then he said, look, if you take an omega-3 every day, it's going to solve it. And he was actually quite right. So that's the supplement I take.
Cool.
And if I would take supplements, I would probably do the mushroom ones, chaga, ashwagandha. Those are really natural stuff and really good for you from what I hear.
Okay, cool. I'm just going to ask if Sol is here from Australia. Are you able to ask your own questions? No? Okay, I'll do it. So, do you have any daily routine practices regarding physical activities that help you energetically for pranic intake?
Good question, and absolutely. I've tried the ones that I recommend for you, and the ones that we teach in the process as well is the 5 Tibetans, which extend life, which actually balance the chakra system. And another one that is less physical and more like Tai Chi, more like energy work of the body, is called Falun Dafa. Those exercises come from China, from what I remember. They're highly affiliated with breatharianism. Like people that practice them every day, it's like both of them reach the same thing. The people that practice it every day, then they start noticing that they don't want to eat that much. They become a little bit more humble, then become more patient, and that's why they actually stop them in China as well.
Cool.
So these are what I recommend for you. I now train like twice a week, 40 minutes, walking, running, and some weights, like 3 exercises of weights. I do some ping pong, some tennis. Yeah, that's it. I try to do at least once every couple of days something with my body.
Oh, and I should imagine having 2 little children is quite energetic.
Is
anyway.
running around after them, yes. And I'm the only father that actually, you know, plays with them in the little parks and goes running after them and stuff, and not sit on the bench with my cell phone.
And that's the same with me. I've got little nieces and nephews, and like all the adults are sitting down eating, and I'm like playing on the trampoline and, you know, reliving my childhood. So it's another question from Sol, talking about
Karen.
pollution around
Karen,
a modern.
do you hear me?
Oh, cool. Yeah. Are you there?
Oh, yes. I don't have the camera available, but can you hear me well?
We can.
Yes, we can.
So
Yes, thank you. Hello, Ray. A pleasure to talk with you.
Encantado.
Are you hear me? Yes. Okay. My other question, sorry that I interrupt you, Karen, but I wasn't available before. It was about the pollution, the air pollution in modern society, especially when, without really talk directly, but you will understand me, especially when there is in the sky too many dense clouds, and especially those days that are the weather is a bit weird, you know. I feel like the density is more, you know, when maybe the planes are around, and I have difficulties in my breathings, when I do the breathing exercise or when I take my walks. Is really dense, the atmosphere. So how do you deal, because you also live in in the civilization?
Yeah,
How
I
do you
know.
deal those days? If you have any particular thing that you do, or really you are not affected?
I can tell you that I'm not affected, but I can tell you that a lot of people are affected. Do you know that like bacteria and viruses, they have a vibration? And then when you go over or higher than their vibration, you notice that people are very, very happy. For example, they get less sick, or they're less annoyed by that. It's not only because of their mental, but it's actually a vibration that's a little bit higher than the flu and other things. And that's why they don't catch a sickness. And I think that the same rule applies kind of here. So when in the beginning, when I had this thought, and I did have these thoughts because in my first couple of years as a breatharian, I lived in Tel Aviv, which is a polluted city, like every major metropolitan. And then I had this thought, wait a second, is what I'm breathing right now, it's probably bad for me, right? There's cars all around, there's people honking, there's stress of living in this type of country. But then with time, I realized that it's a thought and it's a belief. And I need to work much more on that thought and the belief. Yes, there is a part that's physical. There is a part that you can smell or you can breathe, but your belief makes it more intense, okay? Like the difference between suffering and pain. So pain is a given. Emotional pain is a given. Physical pain, if you have it, is a given. But suffering is what you make out of that pain. So some people, they talk about the pain all the time, and they make a big thing out of the pain, and they repeat it, and they have to have other people listen to them and stuff. But if you just acknowledge the pain, and it will go away. And the pain, you can't do anything about the pain. So if you can't do anything about the pollution, what you should really work on is your attitude towards the pollution. And you don't want your body listening to your attitude and your belief. There's a physical aspect to it. I agree with you. Yeah, it's more difficult sometimes. But if you're in the level that you can't go out and just breathe at all, then you really need to work on letting go of that limiting belief and allow the body. The body will naturally know, the breatharian body, or the body of a person that detoxes like you guys do once a week at least, is healthier and it knows like the channels are all focused on cleaning itself. That's the beauty of a detox, right? We allow the body the natural time it takes to clean itself. So even if you do get toxins in, the body will clean itself. Okay, and you're allowing, what you want to do is you want to allow the body to have the right environment. And what you do is by fasting, intermittent fasting, water fasting, dry fasting, the breatharian way of life and stuff like that. So what you're doing is okay. Don't worry about it. It's better that you breathe in nature and you go take walks in nature. But if you can't, just allow your body the natural time it requires to detox. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, totally. Thank you so much.
Right. Right.
Okay. So you did ask about, she did ask whether or not, I'll read it as she said it. So I think my ego is afraid, hang on, let's read this properly. So I have the sensation that my inner guide is telling me to put the pedal to the metal in this journey to pranic living, although I'm still a beginner on this path, but I think my ego is afraid to lose control. Even if we know the process should be gradual and usually takes time, should I try to move a bit more forward? So I guess she's asking.
The process is not gradual. An initiation is a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. The process used to be years. Now it's like a week and a half. And then you kind of like get used to it. I would say that any big change in our life comes with a mix of excitement and fear, because we don't know what we're heading towards. I can tell you that, you can always go back and everybody finishes the transition together. So it's kind of like, it's not a big deal, but I can understand like a teenager that has never drank alcohol, stepping into something that we're not unfamiliar territory, especially as we go older. It can be fearful, but I don't know if it's fear or excitement. I'd like to think about it as excitement to challenge or to try something that's a little bit different than what I tried in my entire life.
Yeah, okay. Gemma from the USA, she asks, well, she says, after the arrival of your first child, you talk about your challenges maintaining the pranic lifestyle. Since you had achieved a stable physical state, were the challenges more emotional, mental? Please explain the challenges and how you worked with them and adjusted your routines, your jobs, your social life, etc.
So the challenge with my first child, first, it's, being a first-time parent, and then being a parent to an autistic child that wasn't diagnosed as autistic back in the day. So the communication issues, violence, not sleeping at night, like everything it was very difficult emotionally. So for example, in that time, I ate more or emotionally ate or had the Karen's chocolate, for example, occasionally. And then when we realized it, then I went back into my old routine and habit, which is easier for me. So those are the challenges usually. So it's more emotional challenges. How I choose to deal with it, it wasn't easy. It still isn't easy all the time. I thought that life is supposed to get easier with time, and I find that not. For example, the Breatharian retreats before COVID, we had like 30, 40 people. Now we have like 20 people, and we had like every 2 months, and now we have like once every 4 or 5 months. And people are gradually waking up and wanting it more and more, but it's not like it was before. So it was a whole lot of different things. I'm an only provider for the family because my wife has to be with the kids because both of them need special care. So also more stress, more things on my shoulders, So that was most of it. But I believe I'm a very strong individual. And I believe that it's all an internal work, like 80% of the work needs to be internal, and then 20% of the work needs to be the actions that we have to take. So I do my best to be as strong as I can, and there are moments that I'm not, and I allow myself to cry, and I allow myself to share it with a friend in case I'm not, and I allow myself to have fun as well.
Take it from my experience, it never gets easier.
It doesn't. Everybody says that. Come on, give me hope.
It's always pushing you to get stronger and stronger and stronger. It's, like I say, I'm what am I now, mid-50s, and I know everything that I take on, it just is another step on from the time that the challenge was the time before. So get ready. Okay,
Well,
so
I'm
another.
planning to rest. We bought some land in Costa Rica and we're building a house there. And when we retire, we're going to retire in a place that's going to be very peaceful and stress-free, hopefully.
Oh, wow, lovely. Sounds like a heaven. So I've got Kavita from the USA. How can they control cravings when one has to cook for the family every day? She doesn't have any
really good question.
to cook.
Sorry.
And nobody else can do it. So
okay, let me tell you something amazing. I just had 3 weeks ago, we had an initiation in Spain, and one of the practitioners was a chef, and asked her, "How are you going to be a chef?" And I already knew the answer because I've had participants that were chefs. Food is an energy. I don't know if you've noticed, but when you go to drink your coffee at work, you actually are more interested in the break that you have. And you're interested in the small talk, and you're interested in going all the way to the machine, pressing the machine, taking, like it's the whole ceremony around and not the liquid itself. So when you cook to your children, you are surrounded by food, you smell the food. And then you think that it's a torment, but it's not. You're actually enjoying it when you have that intention of fasting. Now, because all of you already know what it feels like to have people eat next to you when you're fasting, because you have this habit, then you kind of like understand what I'm talking about. So when I cook to my wife or to my children in the morning and I don't eat with them, I know that it's okay, and I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the smell. It's a different it's a different way of enjoying food with them. You understand? If you think that it's going to be challenging, it will be challenging. And if you think that it's not, and you just like kind of like flowing with it and understanding that there's another way of just cooking food for other people, you know, maybe you even want to challenge yourself by sitting next to them as they eat, and ask yourself, you know, immediately see how you feel, and ask yourself, wait a second, am I jealous? I'm going to eat in a few hours anyway. I'm breaking my fast. Why do I feel the way that I feel? Why do I feel deprived? And then work with that, you know, do the shadow work of understanding those emotions and why they come, and challenge yourself to that.
it's interesting because there's actually a they now call fear of missing out, and it's actually FOMO. So it's actually a something, you know, they've actually named it now, you know, whereas you obviously realize that, well, I think you just associated it as just something that you personally felt, but it's actually not. It's like, same with, they now call in a restaurant food envy. So if someone's ordering something that, you know, and you don't know what to order, you're like asking them what they want, so that when what they're going to order, so that when you get to ordering what you want to eat, you know, that there's no food envy. And that's actually a thing as well, you know. So you realize that it's actually, these problems are actually across the board. It's not just one person's problem. It's actually, you know, fear of missing out is actually a thing.
Well, imagine what we had 50 years ago and what we have today. We're bombarded in Instagram with things that we don't have, with successful people, with beautiful models. So we're afraid that we're missing out because everybody kind of like shows us, look, this is what you're missing out. I'm better. I'm doing this. But honestly, behind the scenes, everybody has relationship issues, and everyone has struggles. And the more beautiful you are, the more sometimes challenged you are by the way that other people look. So we don't know what reality really is, and it's definitely not what we see on social media.
Sure. Okay, so I don't know if there's any more questions that people have put in the group, but let's open it up to anybody else that's got any questions that would like to ask you themselves. You just need to unmute yourselves.
Yes. Hi.
Okay. Vital. Hey. How you doing?
I did my initiation with Ray Maor, and I really recommend it. Long time no see. That was the beginning of. I wasn't aware of everything. Like, it's just opened things. More and more things opened, and I joined this group. Remember, I had a lot of questions for you at the beginning. I was overwhelmed. It goes against everything we are raised on, and I was so, you know, overwhelmed and fascinated, and I wanted to say answers, but then I realized it's a process that takes time. You have to adjust to it, and then you just keep learning and keep developing. And I remember I did the 9 days with you. And I remember the first day, it was water fasting, and it was so difficult by noon. I was, saying, whoa, another 4 days without, the first days with water. And the next 4 is 5 days. The first day is with water, and the other 4 days are dry. And the first day I was like at noon with water. I said, I felt so bad. I was like, how am I going to do it? And, it just, the support, the environment, all the lectures and everything. And yes, I've survived it. And now I fast every Friday. It's like a piece of cake. I mean, I know it's 24 hours and I can go more. But, just, again, I do it because of the taste rather than because I really need it. You just miss the taste, the pleasure. And yes, you keep learning, and it's also a mind thing. It's not just physical. I realized it's a lot of things together. It's not just, you can't separate it. So it's just an experience and it's an opportunity to thank you and recommend Ray Maor's process. It was, that's how it all started for me. So thank you. I don't have any specific questions like the webinar.
Now you don't have a question. In the process, you had so many questions. I remember.
Yeah, because it was actually, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I just didn't. I was overwhelmed. You gave a few. We had, I think, 2 meetings beforehand, and I really didn't understand it because nobody teaches you these things. You have to go and learn all these things by yourself. You have to find the right groups of people, the right, and I'm come every Friday. I think I'm the only one that is here today. See, a lot of people are excited, and a lot of people came, but sometimes I'm all alone. So I just keep learning and being inspiring by all these wonderful webinars, all these wonderful people. So it's just, I don't actually, all my questions are answered before I even ask them, because now I've been into that for a couple of years already. So I think it was your last live initiation in Israel before COVID. And then, it was just, you're not doing it anymore. I understand from what you're not doing.
In Israel, I stopped completely.
Yes, I was lucky. It was the last time. So I was lucky. And well, ever since then, it's been a long time. And ever since then,
what you're doing is the right thing. You should always stay in these groups. You should always be in the conscious level, read about it a little bit, otherwise we kind of like forget. So we want to delve in it.
That's right. It's, it's the real world, and it's us. When I speak, it's like, you can't even talk to regular people. My own family, they don't understand. I mean, it's just 2 different worlds. I don't know, levels. I don't know. It's very important to meet these people. So to meet
that's why the group initiations work much better than the individual ones, because we kind of like feel like it's a spiritual family that comes together, and we can talk about everything, right? We can talk about aliens and channelings and energies and everything, and it feels more like home than home, right?
Yeah, if someone from the outside world came and heard us speaking about channeling, about us, they were a bunch of crazy people. I just wanted to thank you, and just want to say hello.
It's my pleasure. You surprised me. Actually, I don't see a lot of active videos here. Yeah, so I see a few like names. Maybe they're potentially Israeli names, but you're the only one.
What do you mean, Arik?
Arik Rosen, right?
Roseni. Yeah, he's part of the group, so that's where I met him. He started asking me.
Arik Rosen, I think that your assistant, we exchanged emails back in the day. I think you have a large following by email. I think, but I'm not sure. It's the first time that I see you.
It might be, I don't know, but anyway, we have Ravital here from Israel. We have myself, and we have few more people. They're not present here, but we have in the group. But most of the people are like we have virtually from all over the world, including Iran, including like Syria, including like it's really like many countries. Yeah.
Thank you for holding this space. It's really important what you guys are doing.
Yeah, Ray, and if you have people who you think might be contributed by cultivating this habit of fasting for 24 hours, and we're really open, they can do whatever they want. They can do juices, they can do dry. They like, it's really like, it's important for me to have no other agenda for this group, not to make it sectarian. Like everyone is welcome. Like upon the common denominator of fasting for 24 hours a week, even lightening their diet. There are some people who just go from like more dense food to fruit, for example, once a week. It's absolutely acceptable. And
that's good. Sure, I'll send them your way, and then they kind of like meet here, or you have a Facebook group or something where they can read.
We operate. We have a very active chat on WhatsApp. It's basically it's a WhatsApp-based group, and we also have every week or almost every week these kind of webinars where we invite people on food, fasting, spirituality, and any kind of people, from breatharians to carnivores, but just people who got some results using natural approaches to healing.
Yeah.
That's the idea, to create it really very, very broad, very, very open, and to really provide answers or opportunity for every person to find what suits them rather than dictating them what they should do.
Perfect. Good. It's really good that you guys are open up to more participants, and then just holding the space for this will attract the right type of people.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Arik.
Sorry. Thank you, Ray. I'm Frederick. I'm all the way from Kenya. I have been with Arik from the beginning of this weekly fasting group. Actually, I'm the first participant in this group when you were starting. Then you have mentioned something that I really wanted to actually try and see if we can get a solution to. I like your teachings. I've been following you for a long time, and it's a good opportunity that we have a time to talk today. You mentioned about autism with your children, and I'm thinking about, do you have some idea in your mind of how these children maybe will be helped in their future, or somehow if this thing can get an answer? Are you pursuing any way of helping them get rid of this thing? I know it's very personal, but for me, I felt that kind of a concern when we are talking. Okay.
Yes, I believe that they're different. I think, like, from what I understand, about 30% of kids today are born for the future. Like, it's the type of souls that are more individualistic. It's the type of people that we will need in order to create a better heaven-like reality for ourselves. And that's why they kind of like, I mean, it's a spectrum, right? Nobody says it's one thing or another thing. A lot of them are extremely intelligent. A lot of them have communication issues, as society judges what it means to have a normal communication between human beings, for example. So from what I see, they're much more inside their own world. And I think that they're going to have social struggles when they get older if we're going to stay a closed society. In other words, we don't accept everybody else like we do today. And yeah, I think that more and more people are, more and more souls are born in that type of state. And I'm very curious to see what that means for our future and how it's all going to come together.
I got you. So thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to put some more negativity on your thoughts and your emotion about this thing, that it becomes like a burden to you. Instead, you are enjoying bringing them up that way, and you're open to any change. Because for me, I'm feeling that at some age somewhere, if they get into this kind of a lifestyle, everything will just correct itself, from whether it's a DNA issue or whatever source it came from. That's how I feel. If they will be able to follow this path of fasting, dry fasting, all these things we are talking about today. Otherwise, thank you so much. It was wonderful listening to you. We love you, and we will have you again very soon. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Frederick. So let's take like 3 or 4 more questions and then we'll summarize.
Lovely, we will. And hopefully you're going to get a chance to talk to us about a potential group initiation process.
We can talk about that. If there's like more than 15, 20 people in your group that are interested, and you say, Karen, again, it's you say, I don't know how spread you are, that it's the best to do it in the United Kingdom. We can do it in 2 to 4 months, I think, when the weather is kind of nice. And I have plenty of places, I have plenty of people that can help me in those areas as well. But just make sure that you have a list of people that are interested, and then we'll find a place and we'll set a date. But it has to be more than 15 people. Otherwise, it's just not worth the time and the scheduling and the traveling and everything.
And what about an online option, so that as a group, we could possibly go through a process with you?
We can do that, but my experience with the online is that it's less successful. And the reason for that is that people don't take it as seriously. People stay in their jobs with their families. The whole idea is to really separate yourself from society for a while, to work on yourself and become a better version of yourself, and then join society. One of the things that we do in the in-person event is that we take away cell phones. So you don't have your cell phone for a week and a half, and people don't know themselves without their cell phone. And when we give them back, they say sometimes, I don't want it. I want to be myself. I don't want that stress. I don't want to know what's going on, So we can do that. We can do an online one, but it's less beneficial.
Yeah, no, I can understand that.
Not totally. As good. I did those in the Corona time, and I stopped doing those because I found that it's less.
Yeah. Okay.
Last resort.
Okay. Back to the questions then.
Can I ask?
All right. So, how do you say your name? Smrita?
Smrita. Yes. I'm from India. I saw some of your videos and I realized that you were working earlier. So I just want to know that with this Breatharian journey or the Pranic Living, how did you manage the office stress and the office routines and things like that? So
that's a good question. So
yeah.
The first thing is that I didn't tell everybody. I just told them that I'm doing a intermittent fasting, and then I didn't have to go to lunch with them. And then after a couple of months, I took some of my workers one by one, and I told them that I'm actually not eating in the morning and the evening as well. And I wanted to see how they react. And with time, because I know how to work with these people, I know that it's only about the mental body, it's about the belief system, it's about, if you don't contradict enough, then they're okay with it. So what I did is that I told them that I minimize my caloric intake significantly, which is the only way scientifically proven to extend your life. I just didn't tell them by how much. And after the show that they did on me with the 8-day experiment and the $100,000, and it was like a big thing here, it was much easier. Then I wasn't only strange, but I was strange with, an approval of society that I managed to do something and prove that I'm okay, So it was easier after.
Oh, perfect. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Good evening, Ray. This is Rose from Holland. I'm the over 70 lady. And I was wondering, people say that you really need an initiation, when you start to read and to listen. Can you say what are the aspects that are the most essential of the initiation? And are there some secrets aspects that you cannot explain, you will never talk about, but only in the initiation?
There's no secrets. It's called a process. We call it a process. There's 2 processes. There's the in-person group process, which I consider to be the easier one. And then there's the process that begins in your own life, which I consider to be the harder one. Meaning, how do I, after 70 years of programming and habits, change my habits? And we do that change in the process itself. And afterwards, we have to just follow the guidelines. You can do it by yourself. The statistic is not very good for those that try to do it by themselves. I assume that, the more we converse and the more questions you ask, and the more breatharians you meet, like my guides and the people that come with me and the people that we meet on Zoom, the more your belief system understands that you are capable of doing this as well. So you don't look at me and you say, oh, he is capable, he's young, he's, I don't know, energetic. But you kind of like look at other people and say, if they did it, a 17-year-old did it, an 80-year-old did it, and you get to kind of like meet them, then your belief system understands that you're capable as well. And the people in your group around you are capable as well. So it becomes easier. Are there any secrets? No. You want to get used to breathing and imagining, using the visualization and the imagination that most people don't use in order to bring in the pranic energy, or however you want to call it, chi, prana, the universal energy. And with time, you get used to it. So you get used to bringing that energy as you're inhaling. But in the beginning, you need to practice twice a day or something like that. And then there's the traumas and the emotions that you need to deal with. And that means becoming much more aware of your emotions and why you're creating that sort of, why you're attracting this sort of drama, and try to minimize the drama in your life as much as you can, not by suppressing it, but by facing it from a higher perspective. So there's no real secrets. It's just about the practice and disassociating yourself from your life for a long enough time in order to create a new habit, one that sticks.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Drive Fast community, Janelle.
Hi, Janelle.
Blessings, everybody. Thank you, Karen. Hi, Arik. Hi, Frederick. Hi, Albina. So blessed to be here today. I have a question, and that is, what about external reset? So my example is I'm going through a period of grief right now where I have no appetite and no thirst. I feel both fragile and more strong than normal because of what I'm enduring right now. And people around me who care about me are saying, take the best care of yourself right now. Make sure you get nourishment, make sure you get hydration, you need your strength. And I want to know, I mean, I love these people, but I'm going to listen to my body before I listen to other people. And my body is telling me obvious things right now, to the point where I still ate because, old habits die hard. And I immediately got sick. Now I'm suffering from like mucus and body aches. Like now I've made myself sick with a cold on top of grief. So what do I actually need to sustain me? And what do you think about, I have this reset going on in my body just already from external reasons, but I do believe my body needs to level up right now more than ever. My entire life is changing and I need to be strong and equipped for it, really.
Well, first, it's good that you're really in tune with your body. I can't really know you from a 2-minute question, but I can tell you that if you can't drink and eat, and then you feel like you don't have the energy, then maybe you should drink something like a smoothie or something that's like easier to digest, because the emotions are having you down. And when your emotional body is really, really hurt and cracked, then it's really, you feel disgusted by a lot of things, sort of like being actually sick, and then your body needs the energy to heal itself. So it says, I don't feel like having anything like that. So maybe take them in very, very small doses. I'm actually, the thing that popped into my mind is a smoothie. Just try to have a smoothie and then drink a little bit more things that are a little bit more liquid, but will bring you energy. Of course, this is not necessarily a good time to do anything that is radical or do extended fasts. You have to be really balanced in order to do that. The fasts do help you achieve that, but we don't want them to actually hurt you. And we don't want them to pull you down because it sounds like you're dealing with quite a lot of things in your life. Yeah? Janelle?
Yes.
What are you going to do? Tell me.
I don't know. If this was like an attack on just me, I think I would feel differently. But I'm a mother and my children are being threatened. So I'm turning into this, you don't mess with my children, I'm a mama bear. My reticulating activation system is on full alert. I'm very on guard. And so I really don't look at food or drink right now. It's beneficial at all. And I feel stronger without it, to be honest. Just being honest.
If you feel stronger without it, then you don't need it right now. Then it's your natural way of rebalancing yourself. And that's okay. Just make sure that you're aware. And if it goes on for a very long time, because you're using the stress is creating a bad thing inside the body. And it sounds like you're under continuous stress. Do you understand? And eventually continuous stress can create an hormonal imbalance. Again, I'm not a doctor, but then you start even being deeper inside the story of your life and how difficult it is. And it creates like a domino effect. That's what you need to be very, very aware of. Sometimes extended fasts make that. For example, people who are bipolar, I don't allow them to join the process usually, unless it's a bipolar that was many years ago and was healed and stuff like that, because extended fasts can trigger that. It can disengage you from reality a little bit. So that's why I'm saying, if you feel good with that, that's great. Just be very, very aware of it. There's no like magic green button that people can press for you. And I can relate to what you're going through because I've had dealings like that in my life and friends that went through these type of periods that I supported. So I'm kind of familiar with what it is. I have to tell you, it's hard to hear it from the inside the storm, but one day this will pass.
Yes, agreed.
One day you have to be strong. It might take a while, but one day you will look back at it and you will understand why it happened in the way that it happened. Hard, I know. I really know.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thank you. So let me just summarize. If this is something that's calling you, just learn a little bit more, see more videos, it's an inner calling, right? The things that we're attracted to, or there's no coincidences in life. When we're feeling something, it means that our higher guidance is kind of like pushing us towards something. I really hope that I answered, most of your questions and explained a little bit more about the breatharian lifestyle. I know there's not a lot of breatharians in the world right now, and I know there's a lot of people that want to practice it. So just so you know, there's a lot of my information out there on YouTube. My book is free of charge on my website. And if you guys want to put a group together, I will be happy to teach you. I have my own place in Spain. We can have another place in the UK. It's really up to you. I think that Karen, you can probably coordinate this or get a list of people that are interested, and we'll set the date and we'll just make it happen.
Yeah, perfect. That sounds fantastic. Thank you, Ray. Yeah, again, I've actually got a retreat centre based in the UK, but like I say, it's just how logistically it's going to work for everybody. But
the real question is like how expensive it is, because we're talking about 8 nights, and then in the UK it might be more expensive than actually flying out to Spain and spending time there. So if it's reasonable, or you can get us a good price, then that's fine.
Yeah, okay. And yeah, and it's like you say, it's just logistically how it works, because all week I've been receiving messages as soon as everybody heard you were speaking, was like, Karen, is there going to be a way, of an initiation process? So yeah, so I'll work it out. We'll talk in the group and I'll come back to you with.
Okay, you have my details.
Yeah, perfect. And is there any other services that you offer? Is there any other, do you do like one-on-ones for people, or?
No, I don't do a one-on-one. I am thinking about starting teaching intermittent fasting for people more like, but you guys are very advanced. I'm aiming towards the people that are beginning their spiritual or their health kind of lifestyle, especially in the States. So I'm probably going to have like online groups for that. But for the advanced students, it's usually the Breatharian initiations.
And how do you learn your meditations and how to breathe like I'm supposed to breathe?
Okay. It's all about conscious breath. So that means that whenever you're in the green light, whenever it is that you're remembering that life is not whatever it is that is going on in your head, just go back into your body and take a deep breath. And with time, you will get used to that. And what you're going to notice is that if you're hungry, the deep breath is going to make it disappear. If you're sad or frustrated, the deep breath is going to make it disappear. But then try to do 10 big breaths or extended breaths. And it will take you a whole minute. And in that minute, what you're going to notice is that you're going into a meditative state. So as you are remembering to take another breath, and your monkey mind is driving you crazy and you're putting yourself back on focus, then you're going to notice that the breath actually makes the meditative state inside of your mind. And the meditative state will have to come with a deeper, more profound breath. Now, there's different type of breathing techniques. Of course, I think that for beginners, the lake meditation on my YouTube channel is the best, because it the mind is occupied and therefore you're following instructions. And with time, you start doing it by yourself, and you're detached from the necessity of having an exercise or a visualization. And I think that people do it naturally when they're very calm and in center, and we do it naturally when we're in nature. But our stressful lives are making us succumb to shallow breath.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Fantastic. Well, thank you very, very, very much. That's from me and from everybody I know.
Thank you for reaching out to me, Karen. You kind of like surprised me. I usually don't take Zoom meetings within a couple of days.
I just was lucky.
Yeah, we were.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, and enjoy your weekend. Namaste.
Thank you very much. See you again.
Thank you.
Toda raba. Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Besimcha.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.